Hello, everyone, and welcome to Justified Jewel Podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Cox, and we're doing a series here talking about political things where you can make a change. And I have a guest that will be coming on every week, every day, up until election day. The purpose of this is so that you are more knowledgeable about what you can put into action, that we, the people, have control, that we are the missing piece of the puzzle. Don't count yourself out. Again, I'm Joanne Cox, certified coach and speaker, and I can be located at Joanne Cox. My website is justifiedjewel.com. Again, welcome to another episode. This is our ninth episode, and let us be so appreciative of having Brian Winters. Welcome, Brian.
Joanne, thanks for having me back.
Yes, it's been a wonderful journey, and I myself am learning so much. And I'm wanting to open up the gates for everyone else to really feel free to find out what they've been missing and not understanding that this is important to do ahead of time, not on election day or the 2 weeks before. So today we are going to jump right in with episode 9 saying, making democracy work again. Okay, take it away.
Well, yeah, so it's an election year, right? We're
Yes.
another election coming up, and one of the issues that people get concerned about with elections, there's a number of them. One of them is corporate influence in elections. Have you heard about the Citizens United decision?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, it was
And
basically
what does that actually mean?
the Supreme Court basically said that corporations could spend as much money as they wanted to try and influence elections. And as I think we've talked about before, those that leaves a lot of us at a disadvantage if we don't have millions and millions of dollars to try and influence elections. And so it can have a negative effect on our democracy.
Of course, and that's always the case. It's like who has the most money that can give you the push, that will give you the influence, that will give you getting into somebody else's brain. And the person with lack of funds will not be able to do that. So you won't hear from them. You won't know about what they stand for. But guess what? We as individuals are doing what we need to do right now by educating the people and getting right out here to let them know what they can do. And just breaking it down, let us talk about individuals as we come together in unison as into how to make this move.
Um, yes. So what do we do about this? Well, as you know, my name is Brian, and I'm a former legislator, and I have a proposal of how we can put the United States on a path to a bright and bountiful future. And you can learn more about it on my website, votewithbrian.com. I'm not a candidate for office, but what I did do is I've written a piece of legislation for Congress. It's about this thick. It's about 2,000 pages. You can read it on my website, and it will address many, many problems in the United States. And one of those things it addresses is corporate campaign political spending. To the Supreme Court has said that we can't put limits on it, but what we can do to discourage them from trying to influence our elections is put more disclosures and regulations around it, so that a corporation, before it could spend money to try and influence elections, it would have to get permission from a majority of its shareholders to do that. And
Well,
since corporate, go
my
ahead.
question on that, they would have to vote with the shareholders. But I would believe that the shareholders might have the same influence and they're thinking on the same wavelength as that head person. Now, what are the chances of that being any different?
They might not. A couple things. One is that lots of shareholders, don't vote, or it'd be very complicated for to properly poll all the shareholders. And then two, when a corporation is spending money on elections, that means that it's money that it's not spending on, its own products, on marketing, on lots of other things, on profits that would otherwise maybe go back out to the shareholders as dividends. And so, they shareholders might wisely not want to see money diverted into elections.
And that's a good point because they are in that and they are shareholders because of the product that they're putting forth. So I like that you brought that up because I didn't see it that way, but that's very important because myself, if I was a shareholder, I'd say, no, that money needs to go to pushing my product out there. So I'm glad that that came across. Sometimes you can ask a question and then get the answer to about two or three other things. So that's why I like to talk out loud. Let's be oral about this so that we can find out what we're saying, and then someone else can piggyback off what you're talking about, and it can lead to a whole different conversation. With that being said, you talked about how we end up with 435 House members. Well, how can we make that better?
Sure. Well, so we have 435 members of the House, and we've had them for that's been that number for more than a century.
Mhm.
When the framers wrote the Constitution, their idea was that the membership of the House would continue to grow as the population of the country grew. And we did that up until the early 20th century. And then Congress got gridlocked over how to allocate more seats in Congress. And so they said, well, we'll just kick the can down the road and we'll deal with this later. And then they never did. So we've been locked in at 435 members for a long time, and now each member of Congress represents, on average, about 750,000 people, which is a lot of people, and and so obviously it's harder to represent that number of people well. One of the other problems with having the House being fixed and not growing or expanding as the population does is it makes elections a zero-sum game. That means the only way that the red team can win a seat in Congress is if they take it away from the blue team, and the blue team, the only way they get a seat is if they take it back from the red team. And so the two teams are constantly fighting back and forth, trying to take seats from the other one. Whereas if the House was growing, the pie gets bigger, then there could be more for everyone, and maybe you don't have to fight so much.
And it simply goes back to that thing is why do we have to separate? Why do we have to have the red team and the blue team? Why can't we be united and just think about we the people and talk about the preamble? And I hope that the people that have been following us from the very first episode have pulled up the preamble if you don't remember learning it when you were in school. This way you're understanding what your rights are and what we're actually fighting for. Like, what is populace and how can the Populace Act fix certain things? And just lead us into that, Brian, because we want to know on all of the titles and what goes up under a title. We talked a lot about that on past episodes, but I still want the viewers to know what place that we are standing in that we need to make this decision. We know that you've got that 2,000 page write up. We know that. And we know that we want to get in line and start to follow in that direction because of what you've given to us. But we also want to know what is the first thing we can do after understanding what you've laid on the table. Now, what do I need to do?
Um, well, we should talk about what if there's better ways to do these things, right? And so
Mhm.
what I'm proposing is that we expand the House by 100 members, so we'd have
Okay.
535, as well as make Washington D.C. a state that
Mhm.
the 700,000 people who live there. I don't know if you've been to Washington D.C. recently, but their license plates all read taxation without representation. They're very frustrated. They don't have any members of Congress who can vote to represent them.
That's a very good point. And in saying that, what would it take with the legislature? What would it take for DC to be able to vote? What does that fall under? What title does that fall under? What do we need to voice to say those are some votes that we can count on to make us more united?
Yeah, sorry, it's Title 10 is the
Okay.
unstacking Washington. deals with a
Okay,
lot of the
Title 10.
government reforms.
Okay.
And one of the other reforms or issues that's comes up in elections is this concept of gerrymandering, how the red team and the blue team can, draw out congressional districts in a way that one of them is pretty much guaranteed to win. And we've seen a lot of redistricting this election cycle between
Mhm.
Texas and California and here in North Carolina, where state legislatures have redrawn maps to favor their team.
And I want to know when they make the decision to uh, change these things around, who gives them permission to just say, okay, we want to redistrict this because we know the purpose behind it. But do they get a vote? Do we get a vote to say, no, we don't want to change. We want the districts and the zones to stay where they are. Who can make that decision?
Well, that's how representative democracy works, right? Is that they've been elected and then they can kind of do whatever they want.
Whenever they get
That
in, that's it.
that being said, the only reason that they're able to make these decisions is because Congress is willing to go along with it. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution says that that Congress has the authority to change the rules of elections at any time, that they have the authority to set national standards, that Congress
Mm.
could say, all of you states, you're not allowed to change your districts except after the census every 10 years. And Congress hasn't done this. So Congress could do that, and the Populist Act would make that a law as well, so that states could not change their districts around in every 2 years or whenever they wanted, whenever a new political party happened to get in power in a state, they couldn't redraw the lines.
And I don't even know if people are even aware that that is taking place in the background behind it. Why are you making these changes? And it's to have favor in one area or the other one. And if we would just take the time out to look at the details behind why things happen and then turn around and say, what can I do so that that doesn't happen? Because that is not a good thing to do in you to be in favor of someone else. Now, this might be off topic. You can pull me back in, but you know how I just come up with these questions, Brian. But
Absolutely.
I understand that there's something going on right now about not accepting, possibly not accepting mail-in ballots. How would that affect us? And do you think that's going to actually take place?
I don't think it'll actually take place, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, I don't think it'll actually take place. That it's been
Great.
it's been established that the United States since the Civil War we've been doing mail-in ballots. It's not seems unlikely to change suddenly.
Okay. And maybe not suddenly, but maybe, why would that benefit anyone? We know why people have mail-in ballots because of the fact that they can't get to the polls for maybe medical reasons or something of that nature. And then we understand that absentee ballots with our military people not being, maybe not even on America at that time, that would just really hurt us. And I just don't like the idea of what happens with our military people because of the fact that they protect our country. They work so hard and they can never be paid for what they how we should value them and to look up to them. And I think they need to have the greatest ground to stand on when it comes to changes in America. How can we bring that forth to the front? As in, let us take care of our military staff and the general person that's in charge of those decisions when it comes to the military.
Well, I think so. The Populist Act is written on universal principles, right? We're going to try and improve life for everyone, including members of the military, and it does sort of lay the groundwork. We've talked before in the past, Joanne, about UBI and how UBI will go out to every American citizen through a free digital treasury account under the
Mm-hmm.
Populist Act. And so, because every citizen would have a treasury account that would verify their citizenship, that unique account number could then be used to vote or to verify yourself for voting, which would in the same way that you can, do banking on your phone, this would sort of lay the groundwork for being able to perhaps, vote by phone or in other ways that wouldn't require you to actually go to a polling place. So to
Okay.
make voting more accessible for people, for all people.
Okay. So
So
now we've covered quite a bit in a short amount of time, but just sort of summarize this because what we've been talking about is corporate spending in election, gerrymandering, and how to raise the 435 to 535 and to do this upgrading in which you are walking us through. So so put all that together for us before we end this quick episode.
yeah, there's many things that we can do to make our democracy run better. And my model, the Vote with Brian campaign, builds a new model where we, the people, can negotiate. We can for ourselves rather than depending on the red team and the blue team to represent us in writing policy. And so by writing legislation ourselves through a people's legislative assembly, that then we can negotiate for changing policy every election cycle. And so this year in 2026, we have the opportunity to come together across all 470 congressional races nationwide and demand Congress pass the Populist Act before the election, either up or down. And depending on what they do, we can vote together to reward incumbents who cooperate or to kick them out of office if they don't. And so by giving us a new metric outside of partisan politics, we can upgrade democracy in the United States towards a more collaborative system.
That's it, a more collaborative system. That's what we're looking for.
We can work together.
We can work together. A common defense to promote the general welfare. I greatly appreciate you. And I want everyone to actually come back again. Brian, I want you to again tell them where you can be located.
Absolutely. You can learn more about my campaign on my website, votewithbrian.com. And yeah, and if you have questions, I think if you leave them for us in the comments below, I think Joanne will do an episode every now and then and answer a whole bunch of questions from everybody who's watching.
Yes. And guess what? Our next episode will be episode 10. And it is going to be about fasting for peace. And that takes place on the 15th. But I won't say anything else because I don't want to give it away. So just come back and join us again. This is your host, Joanne Cox, justifiedjewel.com. Thank you for watching us. Don't forget to subscribe and bring a friend along with you. We greatly appreciate you listening. Have pencil and paper, talk about these different titles, and we want to get you well informed. We are right here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So until then, take care. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Joanne.